Hey everybody. Hello. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to the stream. Tonight I'm going to be continuing my whole comics journey here, working on this one particular comic from my Star Vale series. I don't have a name for this one yet. I'm just calling it Vale at the moment. I've done a couple streams of this. I've done the one last week and then some from like a long time ago. But this whole year, 2024, is all about making comics for me because I got to do stuff. I got to get everything done. I have a huge list of things to do. So I'm going to be going down throughout that whole list and trying to knock off every single one of the things that's been lingering. So if you're somebody who knows anything about comics I've been working on in the past and you're like, what happened to that thing? I'm working on that thing. I'm working on all the things. So yeah, I'm finishing this one because I had already started on it and made significant progress, and it's relatively short. So yeah, we'll be wrapping this one up throughout streams and via the Patreon. So if you'd like to go through and look at these in higher res, they're all up there right now if you're a patron. Hello. So this one over here on the right, this is one that I worked on last week, was it? Oh, no. This is the one I was working on last week. And I just wrapped this one up the day after the stream. It's crazy how much faster I can be when I'm not talking. But there's one problem with this one. His pupil's on the wrong side of his face. That little dude at the bottom. But that's okay. It's an easy fix. And then on the right here, this is a page that I did since the last stream, just between work. And yeah, I did a bunch on this one. I felt like I was able to get across a lot of atmosphere. And we have finally switched down to the second half of this comic where we're not exclusively in the most detailed place in the whole world. So that'll be nice. A nice change of pace for how crazy, this comic's been so far. But yeah. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop them in the chat, and I will try and address whatever you're asking, whatever you want to talk about as it comes. But up until I start making some pace on the current issue, I'm going to be focused on working up this page that's on the screen now. So I just started doing the inks of this one. So just for reference, I'm going to keep this page open so that I can look at it as I go. Okay, cool. Who are you considering publishing? I self-publish everything. So if you've ever purchased a Steve Lichtman book, those massive, humongous tomes of books, those are all self-published. So we do that through our own brand, Acceptable Comics. That's me and my buddy Dan Warren. If you've never read Steve Lichtman, you can check it out at stevelichtman.com. There's a ton of issues up there. It's not everything. The books themselves are super long, so we have a bunch of content that we hadn't released yet. I think it amounts to an additional, like, I don't even remember, maybe like 300 pages or something like that. We'll be seeing some Steve Lichtman in the streams. I mean, in your video with Steven, you said probably we're having more Lichtman till the end of the year. Yeah, for sure. We'll do some here and there. Not enough where like I'll spoil everything, because that's one of those books where there's, this like prolonged narrative that a lot of people are into, so I wouldn't want to spoil too much of what we have planned. But I'm super happy with Steve Lichman at the moment. Like, we've been working on that pretty much nonstop since this year has been rolling around, and I'm very happy. I'm very happy with the progress so far, and I really can't wait to get some stuff out. I mean, if this is any sort of, you know, I guess idea of how fast the comic's gonna go, then I can't even imagine. Like, I don't know. I've gotten so much faster since I first worked on those comics, so I feel like it's just going to be a whole other universe of an experience than the last time. As the last time I worked on those comics, it was a lot of fun to do the comics themselves, like the writing, but the actual execution of drawing such a massive book, it just crushed me. And that's not even taking into account all of the self-publishing issues that you run into, which there are a lot of. But because we're self-publishers, we'll probably run some sort of funding thing, like by a Kickstarter or something, just so that we know exactly how many books to order, or we have like a ballpark. Because we're not so wealthy that we can just that we could just purchase a massive stock of books without people already waiting for them. Pre-orders would have to be made for sure. FlexDex says, hey Dave, what online source would you direct someone who wants to create manga? I mean, honestly, it's just, this is gonna sound shitty, but I honestly think like you just do it. Scott McCloud has a great, I don't know if he has more than one book, but he has a few books. I don't know if they're all about comics, but I know his big one, Understanding Comics, is super helpful. I read that, but outside of that, I honestly don't know what resource there would be that would help you make them. For me personally, the best experience I've had is just going for it. Just making stuff, even if you feel like, you know, you don't know what you're doing. You just make things, you know? And then you learn as you go. Like that's all I did. Like, if I'm being truthful, I did that, and then just lots and lots of practice writing. Is this your first creator-owned book? No, I have two big humongous books, and then another one coming out, and then two other ones that are gonna come out. But yeah, I've been making comics for a little while. I did some other comics for other people, but as far as creator-owned, only a few. Hoping to change that. Hoping to make it like a big old library of books. Way too many ideas, so they gotta come out. What exactly does self-publishing mean? Like, what would having someone else do it for you entail? Well, if somebody else was doing it, then I wouldn't have to do anything involving the books being printed or shipped internationally, or just all of the logistics involved, all the quality control things, and working directly with printers in other countries. So it's just a ton of extra work is essentially what it means. But it also means that you get to keep way more of the profit on whatever you make. Because if you have a bunch of middlemen, then inevitably they're going to be taking large cuts of whatever you make. And we just wanted to see, like, we just thought it can't be that hard. Let's just do it ourselves, whatever. Let's figure it out. And so we just decided to go that route. And it's super fulfilling. I mean, it's definitely hard, but self-publishing means that nobody else is involved, It's just you and the printer and then whoever else you want to bring into the fold for distribution and whatever. So, yeah, a lot of work, but it's good. Serious question. Thanks for your stance you took against magic. Meant a lot. Can you elaborate on what exactly you meant when you said on Twitter that you somewhat regret the years you spent making fan art? I mean, sure, I can go into that. What I meant by that was just that, like, look at what I'm doing right now. Like, if I'm, like, me and my wife, we sit down, or at least we started to do this. We started sitting down every week and just laying out, like, where are we in terms of our goals. And I was trying to be really honest with myself. And I was just thinking, like, man, I've had so many projects that I've had in my head for years, and I just haven't done them. I know I haven't had a ton of time to do them with, needing to make a living and all that. But it just was a big wake-up call to, like, when I spent that time just doing fan art to learn how to become, like, a better artist, a better draftsman, better painter, whatever, I could have been spending that time just making comics. Like, that would have been just a better use of my time. And so that's more what I meant, is I just regretted kind of wasting that time. And I think, like, a lot of people can relate to this, where it's just, you make believe that you're not doing something because you don't have time, when it's really the feeling of, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't actually know if I could do that thing I wish I could do. And I think my insecurity kind of took over, because I thought, like, this stuff was a little too big, a little too daunting for me. And I just replaced it with easier things to do. But it's worth just doing the hard work. So after just kind of analyzing myself and just being like, stop putting stuff off and being a huge wimp about it, and just, even if the thing sucks, like, who cares? Like, even if your books fail financially, even if things don't work out exactly how you'd like, do the things you say you're going to do, no matter what, So this year is sort of just a big, I don't know, make things right sort of situation. Because I can't keep doing that, I'm drawing on a Wacom Pro 32-inch tablet. I would not suggest buying one. But that is what I'm using. Not because of their, use of AI and all that with the dragon, but because it's just a shitty tablet where the pixels get stuck on the screen real easy, and I've had it repaired and just, yeah, it's not great. But that's what I'm using. Just a pretty big Cintiq tablet. That's why my face looks bright white right now. How much did this set me back? God, I don't know. A lot. Like $3,000 or something when I first got it. I don't know how much it is now. I bought it with all that delicious concept art money. Delicious cash. Do I need a chat reader? I don't think I could with the music right now. I'd have to reset up my stream. But I appreciate the offer, Dan. I was trying to call you earlier to see if you wanted to do this stuff with me, but it's fine. The fan art couldn't have been a complete waste of time. Didn't it give you a lot of traction on social media? Seems like it laid a lot of groundwork there for Steve to sell, no? Well, yeah, of course. Of course. But I think that's also a thing that you can tell yourself a lot, to be like what I did. I'd be like, well, I gotta do this other thing because it brings people here. Without thinking like, what if all I did was my comics? What would happen? Like, there's plenty of creators out there who have massive followings just from doing their own IPs. And if I really dedicated myself and took the risk, I could do that. Like, I could 100% do that. And I just kind of felt more like that kind of situation. Of like, I should bet on myself more often. Yeah, and I talked about it on Steven Zapata's interview there with me, where we were talking about how to protect yourself in the future from AI stuff. And I think, honestly, one of the most important things to do is to really just make your own stuff. Like, do things only you can do. And I think that that's one of the number one guards against it, because, yeah, like, AI can do just like whatever fan art crap. It's like AI can do a bunch of these other things, but and I say this as like a positive to anybody out there. Like, in a world where AI is going to kind of fill the space in a lot of ways potentially, it's going to look more and more soulless as things go along. Like, think of everybody's reaction to like the Marvel movies, you know? Like, people have been getting more and more turned off to just kind of phoning it in, by the books writing, sticking to a formula that just works, or, you know, they think works for everything. And then it ends up biting them in the ass, or just in general, people get tired of the same sort of thing over and over again. So if you stand out like a sore thumb from the rest of the group because you're making just weird stuff and you have a wholly realized vision through, you know, like a series of comics with your voice and all that, then that stuff will rise. Like, when people are so used to seeing just stale, lifeless stuff, if you're doing things with life and whatever, it's going to stand out in that kind of group. What would young Dave do with how poppin' AI is? Would you still have gone down the TMNT fan art path? No, I wouldn't have done that exact thing. But I would not have given up. I'll tell you that much. Like, I was very determined to make a career. I honestly think like one of the biggest setbacks that the AI thing has it's like done to artists really is that it created this fear. And the fear, it's like the amount of time people waste talking about this stuff, the amount of time people just kind of like dread this, whatever. It's like, then you're not making things, you know? Like you're not trying to get better. You're not actively engaged and focused on yourself. Like just keep on, like trust that people will matter going forward and just keep making stuff. But if you slack and you let this thing freak you out enough where you stop creating as much work as you used to, or you stop trying to improve, then of course AI will be the inevitable thing. But if you can just become an artist that's worth something, then there's a whole world for you. And I don't think you need to fear it as much as you think you do. Like, really. Do I think magic illustration work could also go away in the near future? I don't think in the near future. I think you're fine for a while. I honestly, like, I don't think that they'll abandon artists at all. Yeah, I don't think that. I would never put that on any of the art directors over there. It's just not, I don't think that's going to be the case. I mean, the amount of like news outlets and things that have reached out to me since all this stuff started happening. I mean, everybody's talking about it. Something will happen. We're not just going to live forever in this place where AI is everything. Like, once, like I've said it before, it's like once Disney's lawyers come into this, like, you're not going to be able to, like, you think that they're just going to be cool with, you know, just Mickey Mouse and borderline pornographic or straight up pornographic AI shit forever. Like, I think you're crazy if you think their lawyers aren't doing something right now to destroy their whole universe. I would be shocked if something didn't happen. Do you have any comments on the state of the industry with AI? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, yes. Well, I kind of just went into that, so I won't do it again. Do you think the normalization of photo bashing plus COVID and NFTs led to the birth of AI art? No. It was happening for a while. It was just shitty before. But I do like you working COVID into that. It feels like it's maybe going to be an Illuminati conspiracy. I think it was all a plan to wipe out the artist. That's what I think. I mean, all the NFT thing is, to me, is definitely a way to just hide money, just illegal money. Like, it's just, it was too good to be true from the start. There's no way it's not that. Some dangerous shit. So, Yeah, I don't think that that had anything to do with like just, you know, some larger thing with AI. How does it feel to be a part of the Illuminati? I got a taste for gold. That's just us lizards, though. I've been sucking up doubloons. That's how I stay young, really. When you talk about doing IPs and projects, do you think that art talks get into that realm, or is it mostly products like comics, animations, universes? Well, I don't know. I mean, art talks wouldn't fall into the realm of making your own properties unless you're talking about like a writer's room or something. Not exactly sure what you mean by that, but what I'm talking about is just leaning into making your own stuff. Just make a bunch of your own things, and it's not something that I would put on everybody. Like, not everybody wants to make stories and whatever, but like that's just genuinely my passion, and I want to lean into it more. I don't want to shy away from doing the thing that I really like doing. And it's a nice kind of a way to make myself more bulletproof for the future. And that's not even just like an AI thing. It's an always thing, because like what should you have, you know? Like, just work that you have to continuously do. Like, if I'm just a painter and all I do is create things for other people, then inevitably I'm doing that forever, because I don't have this thing that makes money without me. Like, you might be able to sell art books and prints and whatnot, but that's not the same. Like, books sell forever, like things that have more weight than just a singular image. Like, unless you're an icon, it's very hard to keep that going forever. And my biggest strength in that regard would be the stories. So that's my version of, having something that can just be out there in the world, making money for you, and just something that you love to do that's more than just a single image and has content that more than just artists can relate to. You want to make things that kind of, like just the general public, regular people who aren't necessarily caring about what a piece of art looks like or how process works or any of that. People who are just interested in reading something entertaining or laughing at something, whatever. It's like that's way easier to make money over time with, and that's what we have with Steve Lichman. Like, my buddy Dan and I, Dan's in the chat right now, but we made those books, and we've been selling those books every day for the past like 6 years. So I mean, got to keep that up. I didn't watch The Boy and the Heron yet. Really want to see it though. Oh my god. My wife just tapped on the glass of my office door to wave to me. And I heard the tapping. I thought it was on the window right out here. I was like, goodbye, everybody. Somebody's about to kill me. Somebody's about to wait for me to look up and then shoot me in the face. Hey, thanks for showing your friend Steve. Yeah, Steve Lichman is just like our first big venture into making comics, and now we're just making more of it, and it's super enjoyable. Also, like I can't talk about everything we've done since we worked on those books, but we've done a lot of stuff that's just secret stuff. But we learned so much about writing, and since we've been working on Steve again, it's so much faster. Like, holy crap, it's faster. Have I ever had my art made into a statue? Have I? That's a good question. A statue. I don't think a statue, but I do have I designed figures for the Masters of the Universe line that came out from Mondo Toys. So I have some really cool ones from that. I did Skeletor and He-Man. And they're not statues, they're just like fully bendable figures. They're really cool. I've showed them on stream before, I think. Thanks for watching me draw this creepy old thing in a cave. Appreciate it. You had a comic with a hero with no arms. That was a real cool one. Some of the scenes reminded me of Dragon Ball Z. Yeah, that's Starvale. That's this is partially that universe. This is a short story from that same world. Well, not world. There's a lot more than that in Starvale. But yeah. I'm doing a bunch with Starvale. I have a whole huge script that's already done. I just have to go back through and make sure it's still exactly what I want to make. But yeah, I have a bunch of that ready to go. Do I think statues of my comic characters would sell well? Potentially. It'd be a niche crowd, though. You could sell like a real limited run of them, for sure. Especially Steve Lichman. I mean, there's more than enough people to get Steve. Like, Steve was legitimately a success. Like, when we first launched our Steve Lichman pre-orders, like, we're not, like, being self-published, we don't rank, you know, in terms of sales. So, like, our sales numbers aren't put up against Marvel or anything. But if you looked at those sales numbers for the month that we took pre-orders for Steve, we beat every comic. So I was super proud of that. So we do have like, and we've sold like 35,000 books. That has a decent fan base in general. But you have to understand that, like, even when you do have a decent fan base for whatever you're working on, or even just if you have like a bunch of views, you got to keep things in perspective. Because like, I always thought that, like, we had our comics online, and I think we ended up getting like I don't know how many million hits or something between all the different places that the issues were up, but it was a lot. And I remember thinking, like, God, if just like 5% of that number bought the books, we would sell so many. And I I remember like just being naive at the time. I remember thinking like, that's all we gotta do. I mean, that's definitely gonna happen. And then like when it came down to like running the Kickstarter, we did super well, like really well for the Kickstarter. We were in the top 10 of like the comic Kickstarters for a long time. But if millions of people read it, and then you get like 6,000 or so people that actually buy it at that time, I was like, oh, okay. Not like disappointed, but I needed to know what actually like a group online translated to in terms of sales. And that's just to anybody out there who wants to sell a comic. Like, just understand, like, there's a difference between somebody like enjoying it via like Twitter or whatever, or, you know, wherever you post up your stuff, and then real concrete sales. I see somebody was asking Dan a question. I don't think Dan's going to answer. Dan, I can hear him on the phone with my wife right over there. A collab with Grassetti would be good for a statue. Yeah, we've kind of collaborated before on stuff. He did a bunch of statues of my X-Men portraits. Like, I think back in like 2013 or something like that. Apart from Baroque influence, what are other things that I pull from for visual reference for Starvale? It's mostly it's I would say like 70s era sci-fi, but not literally. It's like a memory of that stuff. Like, I don't look at anything directly. I'm just trying to tap into like a feeling of that stuff. So there's nothing that I would point to as like a straight reference or influence. It's just a feeling of that sort of thing. But a lot of it is like merged with fantasy things and, you know, different genre properties, whatever I've seen in the past. Turncoat did about 45,000 on Twitter, but only 5% conversion from web viewership. Yeah, exactly. It's just I'm more or less putting it out there to keep people realistic on these things. It's like, it seems like if you're naive to it, you don't know, you'll think like, oh man, this is gonna go real well. So keeping expectations realistic is very helpful. And also know that if you are a self-publisher, everything that can go wrong will go wrong. But again, you get to keep most of the profit, so it's not terrible. This comic, I'll probably do like it's a tiny comic. It's only about whatever, 20 something pages. I'll probably do a physical release of this one, just as like a kind of like showpiece type of thing. But it'll have for the physical release, I was thinking of doing like this whole comic, like, so one of those large size comics, I forget what you call those, but like the portfolio style, like giant ones, so that you can look at the artwork, you know, real big. But then also have a thing where all the old Starvale artwork is in there too, as well as all like the black and white pages of this. And then from there, just kind of keep releasing other books. But I'll do like a short run via like Kickstarter once this is complete and I have the book together. And I'll do some write up in the book as well about like past influences, and I'll put in some of like the animation artwork and things that I did, and just kind of keep it like a collection of all the portraits from Starvale over the years, as well as this. And then the actual Starvale comic will come later, because I'm going to jump into that too at some point this year. I use OBS and I use Loopback for audio capture. There's probably a better way of doing it, but that's what I use. You're digging the unique frames of the pages and the panels. Yeah, I wanted to do something very much like a old school, almost feeling of like I'll tell you what I did. I got Little Nemo. So I got the Little Nemo books, like the huge ones, those giant hardcover. And I really loved the way that every page was laid out. And I didn't think like I'll do that literally, but I just thought, oh, I love how unique this book is, like the format of it. And then I was just thinking like, what would I do? Like, what would my version of something like that be? And then the more I thought about it, the more I was like, well, I would probably just do like Baroque framing and like Art Nouveau style, because it kind of matches the color theming and whatnot that I'm going for. And that's pretty much where that all comes from. What's your opinion about age? I'm 39, but I'm afraid that it might not work out for me. I've been working for about 3 years as a freelance, but I can't find motivation to keep going. I mean, it's up to your circumstances. If it feels irresponsible to continue on because of responsibilities in life as you get older, then I totally understand having to keep it as like a hobby or something on the side. But it depends what your situation is like at home and everything. I mean, if you have kids and all that, like I totally understand just being like dejected and not wanting to push that. You mentioned that you took a stab at art directing a few years back. Do you mind talking about that? And would you do more of it in the future? Would love to see you art direct something. Well, I'm still an art lead on the project I was art directing back then. But I only art directed for a little bit because we had somebody that was working on the project had to step away, so I had to fill their role for a little while. And I was kind of already dictating the style of the game anyway, so it wasn't that crazy of a leap. The thing that I don't care too much for is the kind of getting everybody else to line up with the overall style and whatnot. Like I'm way more like a worker person, like just a grunt. Like I like just making stuff. So I'm way more comfortable in that situation. I mean that place in a studio. I like just being the person making a bunch of different pieces of art. Or just making my own stuff, I like the results of successful like art direction. You mentioned switching from 600 DPI to 450 because the chrome brush gets weird. Do you work in different DPI ranges for different stages? Not really. Not on this one. I just been sticking to 450. I just find that with this brush in particular, if I'm using 300 DPI as my resolution, then the tip of my brush is a bit too dull looking. It looks too rounded. So if I'm at 450, then the tip of the brush looks like a finer point. So that's the only reason why. And I just really love inking with this brush and painting with this brush. And it's become such a part of my workflow that I would hate to not get the most out of it. What's this comic about? Oh, hey, RC, what's up? This comic is about these two I don't want to spoil too much of it, but these characters here, the big old cat dude and the little boy, they come to this planet and it's essentially like a mystery as to what they're doing here, and it's kind of revealed through this in this big old, I mean, you'll see it in a little bit, but they're essentially coming to see what's happened here because this place is essentially deserted. It doesn't look like there's a huge war or anything, and it's not crazy overgrown. There's nothing too brutal. And then there's just this giant hole in the ground, and they go down to investigate, and then through the story is revealed why these characters are involved in any of this and what they're doing. So, yeah. Now they've just found this big, huge creature deep underground. This big old gnarly looking lady. I work with RC. So everybody say hello, RC's awesome. Yeah, this big lady's sad for sure. Oh, I'm so not. So there's a thing that's about to happen in this comic where she's about to start explaining what's happened here. And when she starts explaining that, it goes into like a voiceover narration of a bunch of scenes. And the stuff that's in those scenes is so detailed and insane that I think I have like a 3-page breather here. So this is the first breather page that I have where it's not ridiculous in the amount of details that it has. And then there's 2 more of their kind of back and forth where you're learning a bit more information, and then it just kind of goes off. And then from that point on, this comic gets more intense. Pretty much what you've seen throughout like the streams, and just if you're a patron, you saw the posts, like all that stuff is lead up, establishing the world. Do you miss the fact that you don't have originals due to the digital process? No, I've been working digital since I started. It was a financial thing back then, where it was just cheaper and easier to do things on the computer. But I'm just used to it now, you know? It's been years. I've just been working digitally for like 20 years. Because I started doing art for people when I was 16. When I was working on RPGs on forums, gaming world forums. I used to do concept art for people's RPG Maker 2000 games. Because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to just program video games and make my own stories and stuff. And I got pretty good at programming that, you know, like how you could do like the custom code and all that with all the variables and whatever to make things happen in the games. I got pretty good at it. I made the Final Fantasy VI battle system. That was my big achievement. And then I just kind of stopped. It's too much. Do you sketch with your tablet or do you draw on paper and scan it? And also, what tablet do you use? That was the Wacom 32 Pro. I've used Procreate. I'm not crazy about it. I sketch both traditionally and digitally. This whole comic was sketched digitally though. Oh, hey, RC. Yeah, I work traditionally. I like watercolor and inks, and I would love to do more of that. Like, if I had just nothing going on and I wasn't a workaholic, then I would absolutely do traditional stuff. But I think, like, having kids and just the sheer amount of work that I like to do, I just kind of go with what makes the most sense, and digital just makes the most sense time-wise. If I had more time, though, for sure. Hey, Mikey. Thanks. Thanks for coming. Is this the kid in the comic young Mr. Starvale before losing his arms? No. No, these are different characters than any of the characters I've put in any of the like portraits or past comics. What I'm really trying to do here is just imply as much as I can. I'm not trying to get so obsessed with the details. It needs to ride this nice line of being good enough to look, you know, quality, but also pretty quick, because I am just trying to tell a story. So I don't want to get too invested in all the little teeny tiny things. So I try to do these relatively quickly. Like this page, I've just been working on since I was getting rolling with the stream. So tonight I just kind of sketched it out based off of my like initial thumbnails, which is where is it? Which is this layer here. So I just kind of sketched this out on top of my thumbnail in Photoshop, and then I just went over that and, you know, inking what you see here. But I'm trying to make it a pretty quick process so that I'm not doing too much work. Which is hard for me because I love spending a ton of time on details that nobody cares about but me. Yeah, RC, I would love to do a Starvale type of game. Once people see the full story, I think it should be a bit easier to kind of do something with it once I have that all wrapped up, because the story I think is, I don't know, I think people will like it enough. It's nothing crazy, for at least in my opinion. It's nothing that I would be like, no, I've never seen anything like this before, but I do like it. And I think that if enough people were into it, it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility to eventually do something with it. I just think that if we can do that with what Dan and I have done with Steve Lichman, then nothing's impossible. Arms Reach asks if there's any way to buy Steve Lichman 1 and 2 in Canada. We are currently in talks with an international distributor, so fingers crossed. Our agent's doing that right now. Thank goodness we have a beautiful literary agent named Jim Eric, and he has hookups everywhere. So he's in talks literally this week to get that hooked up, and then as soon as all of those are ready to go, we will be posting about it online, and I'll tell you on here as well. Absolutely, RC. Well, if I make something worse than Rebel Moon, then I don't know. Something's wrong with me. I'm just kidding. I haven't actually seen Rebel Moon. I'm only judging based off of other people. On the Workaholic Talk, what does your work schedule look like now? How many hours do you spend working nowadays? I work from about 10 a.m. to 4:30, and then if I want to, or if I absolutely have to, which sometimes is I just want to, work from about 7 p.m. to 10 or 11 at most right now. But the past 3 years, I had a crazy schedule. This is me kind of slowing down, but the past 3 years I was doing that same schedule, but I would work till about 1 or 2 in the morning every night. And then I have 2 children, so I just wake up super early and then just slowly lose my memory. Just get Alzheimer's early. You know how it is. Wait, you had them shipped to you and you're in Canada? Well, we used to have an international distributor, but they kept losing our books. Like every week, somebody would be like, "Hey, I ordered this and it never came," and Dan and I were just like, "All right, so we just have to stop doing this." We were trying to find a way to ship internationally without everybody having to pay double. So it'd be like the cost of the books again, and we just thought that was ridiculous. So we just didn't want to do that. What's tonight's playlist? It's just White Bat Audio has like a John Carpenter playlist. It's like all Carpenter copyright free. So it's just stuff that I can leave on and it's not so offensive. It's decent copyright free music. Wacom 32 Pro Cintiq. That's the tablet I use. Don't buy it. Just to repeat myself. Don't get this tablet. Do not do it. Books are gay. Have you tried movies? I mean, the only movies I like are gay movies, so it's a catch-22. Good night, Bruna. Yeah, the dead pixel issue sucks. It sucks hard. My God. I honestly, like, I don't know what happened to their tablets, but it's trash. I haven't tried the newest one, but I just am so, I don't know. I feel real iffy on trying. Like, it's such a risk. It's like you spend so much money on a Wacom tablet and then the pixels just go in the first, like mine went in the first 6 months of me using it. So it was pretty bad. Not worth the money at all, because, you know, paying like $3,000, it's crazy. This brush that I'm using comes with Krita, and Krita just had a new update the other day. I think they just officially launched 2.2 or whatever it's called, and there's a lot of good stuff with it. You can watch a video on it, but this brush is just built into it. It's amazing. Takes a while to get used to, but once you're used to it, you feel like you're cheating. Somebody asked about a comic artist I posted a long time ago that had some sheets in like a sci-fi desert, and it was brilliant. Do I remember their name? Jerome Opeña or Pepe Larraz. I'm not sure. There's a lot of great comic artists. And I also really like Meta Barons, if you're into that sort of thing. They're like painted looking comics. Yes. Somebody was asking if I've seen Rebel in the live watercolors. Absolutely, I've used that. It's great. I use Rebel a little bit to kind of add like finishing touches to paintings. Because if all you do is just use a soft light layer and then you just go over your paintings with their like oil looking brushes, you can make it look like there's paint just sitting on top of the canvas. It's pretty wild. It's a great software. I saw what Craig Mullins was doing with it, and I was pretty blown away. Any plans on working on the Batman comics in the next stream? Maybe. We'll see. It depends how much progress I make. That might be like my break right after I finish these. Wow, who are you? Just happened to stumble upon your live stream. Art looks killer. Thank you. I'm David Copperfield. I'm a magician. One time I made the Statue of Liberty disappear. I'm also historically a virgin. And I draw Garfield hentai. Can also do anything I want. Did I paint the left page fully on Krita? No, I did all the inks, all the color fills, and some of like the texture work, and then a lot of that was Photoshop. So I like keeping my fills, like the black ink fills here. I like keeping them kind of sketchy because I like the texture that it adds. I never really like to do solid fills. I feel like it never looks as good. Anything that I can do to make my work look like somebody made it by hand, you know? It just feels better to me. So that's all on different layers, and I'm going to be kind of stacking each layer. One's gonna sit on top of another. And then I'll sorry, I'm trying to find my character layer. And then I'll just kind of color them and then make little adjustments between each one. So I'll keep each one of these layers locked for their ink color here. So like I've been using my brush as an eraser. So I use the same brush I ink with as an eraser. So every time you see me drawing in like the white lines, I'm just erasing parts of my image. So that way I can just lock my lines here. And if I want to add in like any other color to my lines, I can just go over them like that. So I can like really quickly do different effects in Photoshop. How old am I? I am 36. So is this a series you're drawing? Yeah, it is. It's just called, well, it's from my Starvale series overall, but this one in particular doesn't have a name just yet. But yeah, it's like a series of comics that I made years ago that I'm now bringing back and doing new stuff for, and I'm gonna make a new book this year. This is a one-off issue with some like backstory kind of characters, like just side things that you don't need to know about. And then I have other comics too. Steve Lichman, and hopefully Skull and Shark before the end of my life. I mean, honestly, I want to get everything going before the end of this year for sure. I think it's doable. Okay, now I can start inking this big face on the bottom. And just save the fun part for last. Oh, the comic is Space Girl. That's the one you're thinking of. Yeah, that's a really good one. Any art projects, ideas that you think will have to get left in your will? No, I'll finish them all. I will finish them all. Sorry if I'm gonna get a little quiet for a second. I'm gonna try and really get this face down just right. Yeah, this could be about the Illuminati for sure. What are my thoughts on Brad Rigney's current comic project? I'm a part of his Patreon, and it's a joy watching him work. Brad's a maniac. His comic, if you want to see somebody that's doing a detailed comic, check out Brad Rigney's Patreon. Holy shit. He has some stuff up that you can just go look at. But I mean, he's an incredible artist, Brad. And what he's committed to doing on his comic is just, I've never seen anybody try anything like that. It's just like photo real paintings every page. I mean, Brad might need to leave that one in his will. Talking about me leaving ones in my will. I wish Brad all the best with that. But just after doing like comics for a few years, I just am like, that's a mountain. That is a mountain of work to commit to that type of style. Yeah, this lady has these gold inlays in her skin, on her nose. And she's super dry. Be kind of like mummified looking. Is your Nebula character going to be in this? I remember seeing him when I was 14 and thinking he was the coolest design ever. I still have an affinity for armless characters. He'll be in the actual comic. Like the big narrative one that I'm going to do. This one's just a short story. If you ever see me making weird faces, it's because I'm mimicking the characters that I draw. I can't help it. You hope I'm a good storyteller too. I mean, you can go read Steve. There's so much of that to read. That's all my buddy and I writing the whole thing. It's my favorite thing to do is write. Especially like that type of stuff. Just, I was doing that with Dan this morning, just sitting in my office here, pacing a little bit, touching up a couple of things that we had to do from the other night. Do I only use Krita? No. I use everything. I use Photoshop, I use Clip Studio, I use Rebel, I just recently used Dreams. That was fun for a minute. Okay. A lot of this is going to be kind of adding white to this for some detail. Is this character super detailed and gross? Yeah, I'll come back to Photoshop when I finalize everything with my colors and whatnot. Like I do a lot of work in Photoshop towards the end. So like that page you see in the top left of the screen, that one, that color pass and all is Photoshop for the most part. Hopefully I can finish this one in this stream. That's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to finish the inks for this whole page during the stream. I had already done this guy up top just before the stream started, and now I just want to get the rest of it locked in so I don't have to think about it. My goal is to get a page done a day, at least, for this comic. It's just a good kind of check for me to be like, oh, okay, I can do that, so now I can do all these other projects that are less detailed, potentially. Not even less detailed, just less of the like very ornate, everything looks like an antique style of detail, Baroque architecture, all that shit. Because I don't mind like detail in general, but when it's like little teeny tiny filigree things forever, then that can get a bit tiresome. So I think if I can manage to do that type of page a day, then the other type of detailed where I'm just drawing like spaceships and stuff will be relatively easy in comparison. And hopefully I can do like a page and a half or 2 pages of that a day. Is that a hatching brush? Yeah, it does work like that. It has this magnetism feature to it where it kind of interlinks lines together as you paint. So from a distance, it looks a lot like you're just inking, like kind of like some dry brush inking style. I really like it. It implies a ton of detail. So what I like to do is kind of this wash look that you see, where I'm implying like a lot of shadow and whatnot, and then going in with like a finer brush and doing all the detail, and then erasing out areas where I want light to catch, and you know, if there's any sort of like veins or whatever in the hand, I can erase those areas out like that. Any tips for drawing architecture? I mean, setting things into some form of perspective was always helpful for me, but when I'm doing weirder forms of architecture, which is like in this book, I tend to honestly like imply a lot, and that comes from just my background of painting forever. So you're never really doing like a literal interpretation of like a building. Like if you read a Spider-Man comic and he's in New York and he's swinging around and you see like perfectly drawn skyscrapers everywhere, like that's not what I'm doing. I'm just implying those shapes are there, and I'm trying to trick your eye into filling in as much detail as possible so that I don't have to do all that work. So like when I'm doing very organic looking architecture, I am thinking about the perspective, but when it comes to doing like a bunch of pages of comics in a setting like that, as long as my perspective is pretty close and I can kind of make it feel good even if it's not perfect, then I'm cool with that. So it's a lot of implying and selling the idea that it's correct and not actually being correct. Thanks everybody for hanging out, by the way. I appreciate it. I'll be doing these comic streams every Thursday at the same time as tonight. So if you want to check those out, feel free to subscribe and get a notification when the next one is. I'll put the post up that one's going next Thursday as soon as this stream's done. But yeah, I appreciate you. Yeah, this Krita brush is exclusively in Krita. I've never seen anything like it outside of this program. With stuff like this, do you explore character design on other pages first, or create the design as you draw the pages? Oh, these are characters that I designed a long time ago, so I designed all the characters first. I'll come up with the story and I'll write that all out and just design the characters kind of while I'm doing the story. And then the comic comes much later. But yeah, I have all the character concepts done prior to doing this. I never designed stuff like, other than one-off like architecture or like simple design like background characters or something. I don't really leave that up to, you know, the day of when I'm actually drawing the page. All that stuff would be designed beforehand. It doesn't mean that I do like crazy in-depth concept design on everybody. Like the main characters get that treatment, but some of the other stuff is more like implied. Like I'll show you this character's look in one from like one of my sketchbooky PSD pages. Like I'll just do something like this and just kind of rough a thing together and take some notes and just make sure that I kind of know what I'm doing. And then the main characters that I have like a lot of color shots of and whatever, they are going to have like big thorough design pages where I have their whole outfit, what they wear underneath their cloak or whatever, and that sort of thing figured out. Maybe in a future stream I can pull some of those. I'm really hopeful that I'm able to somehow or another fit the ongoing adventures of Miss Lasagna into my schedule, as I would be so disappointed if I don't get to revisit that world and do a little one-shot. Do you mean a page drawn a day or drawn and colored and textured? Drawn and colored and textured. Is Mousetrap still happening, or did you miss it? You did not miss it. We were trying to do it a handful of times, and then I was sick, Dan was sick. It was just like not ideal, and now we just need to pick a day to do it because we still want to do it. We need to make up for it, but the stars aligned where we were all sick. If you don't know what Mousetrap is, it's an annual event that we do where you are given, well, you're playing against somebody. So I'd be playing against my wife, playing against Dan. And what you do is you get, one of you gets a idea of what to draw from the chat. So the chat will give a whole bunch of ideas of different characters from shows or movies, and then, or an actor or whoever. And then the person whose turn it is has to look at all those suggestions, pick one. The other two people who are playing, they don't get to see any of that. They're blind to it. And then that person tries their best to draw that suggestion with just the mouse. Usually with you know, your bad hand, not your dominant hand. And then the other two have to guess. And then you win a point if you win. And it's really funny because it fucking sucks to do that. And it always looks like shit. There's a couple of those streams up on this YouTube channel if you want to watch them. Those are always like some of our favorite things to do. So we'll probably have one of those soon. My favorite one was Joe Pesci, and also the Mark Cuban / Peter Dinklage. So close to being done with this page. You can see how much progress I made versus the other day when I did all that huge scenery. Oh my god. It took me 2 hours just to do like half of a single panel last time. Love you, RC. Have a good night. How do I get the texture? I mean, it's built into the brush, but it's also just how you play with the pressure of your hand. Like I wasn't drawing like this when I first used this brush. I totally didn't get it for a long time. But yeah, I just had to get used to it. And now I get it. Now it works. It's good. Forgot to imply the metal headdress in the background here. I gotta do that real quick. How do you color your comic pages like the one on the top left? Do you keep the inking in black, or do you have to prep it beforehand before you begin coloring? I kind of do it all at once. So I do, like if you're looking at this page here, I will do all of my fill colors first. So I block in every section underneath the inks and layers, and then I kind of just figure out what all those colors are going to be. And then due to how I set up my inks, where I have like a character on one ink layer and then the background on another, I can create distance between them with atmosphere using brushes. So you'll see like that light kind of coming down with those characters on that rock and all this debris down there. So I'm able to create a sense of like atmosphere and space that way really quickly. Just how I structure my files. And then I do that with all of it. And then I'll paint a lot on top of my inks, as well as changing the color of my inks. And, you know, what you see on the page I just inked, a lot of that will survive to the end, but a decent amount of that will be painted over or changed in some way. Just depending on like what that final color look looks like. And then I'll do like a soft light layer over top of this to kind of more or less like airbrush in some really light, like warm shadows or highlights over top, and just soften it up and make it feel a bit more atmospheric again. But yeah, I do a few different passes on these. So like the hair kind of sticking out there is like stuff I'll do once I feel like my inks are looking all right, just to kind of give a bit more detail to the overall image. I'm not trying to do literal lines, I'm trying to imply a lot of that. So wherever I can, I'm trying to kind of lose my straight up outline lines and treat it more like a painting, especially on like backgrounds or just like creature characters, because I want the main characters to kind of feel like they're in almost like an animated series, and then I want some things to feel like they're painted, like backdrop style and like an anime. I'm specifically thinking of like Madhouse style anime, like Vampire Hunter D, Bloodlust, that type of look. At least that's what's in my head. I'm not saying I'm necessarily doing that. That's just what's up here. It's what I'm thinking about. All right, do I want to do anything else with the background of this panel? Maybe we'll just imply some ceiling texture here with some cave rocks, and then we'll call it there. I think I could get away with that just being a blank background there, but I can just add in like a very subtle hint of a ceiling there. Yeah, Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust was great. Me and my buddy Dan, we went to Suncoast Video when that released the day it came out, and we bought it. And I remember being blown away by how cool it was. Like, we had been waiting for it to come out. That was our number one, because we both read the books and everything, and it was such a big deal when that came out for us. I couldn't believe how good it looked. That was back when you had to spend like $50 on a DVD just to watch the movie anywhere. Because it didn't exist. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna call it there. Looks good enough for right now. Next up will be colors and all that, and I'll probably do that off stream, but I'll post updates of pages and things on Patreon. If you'd like to be a patron, links down below in the description. There's like 2+ years of content on there, hundreds of hours, videos and all that. If you want to learn tutorials, and if you want to check out the next stream, it's next Thursday at 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And you can subscribe to this. I'll be putting up the next stream as soon as this stream ends. But yeah, thanks so much for hanging out with me. Thanks for all the questions and comments. I'm glad you all are into me just kind of noodling around with my comic pages, because I was hoping that might be the case, but thank you. Thanks for sticking with me. I hope I wasn't too boring. Appreciate it. Love to you all. Have a good rest of your night or day. And I'll talk to you next week. Goodbye. Bye.